Tonight, a senator and a new book dividing Republicans on the Hill and angering some pundits on the right. GOP Senator Jeff Flake has emerged as a sometime GOP critic to President Donald Trump. As a result, Flake's new book, Conscience of a Conservative, has been met with swift rebuke from some prominent voices in conservative media. Laura Ingraham tweeting, "I look forward to campaigning against Jeff Flake in Arizona, and for one of his able primary challengers, stand by for the fireworks." Brent Bozell writing, "I also call on my conservative brethren to denounce this imposter who dishonorably claims to speak for conservatism in the strongest possible terms." It should be noted that despite the criticism, the senator receives high grades from a number of conservative watchdogs, including the NRA and the pro-life NRLC and FreedomWorks. Additionally, his colleague John Thunes defending his right to speak, telling Politico, "I think Jeff's got a fairly strong held view about where we are as a party and where we need to go, and I think it's fine for him to articulate that." So joining me now to respond, Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona. So your book is a slim volume, but it has created a lot of discussion. The way I saw it was that the book was not necessarily an anti-Trump book, but it was talking about the conservative movement as a whole and where does it stand now, because clearly, as you saw from the response that your book got, there is a divide within the Republican Party in this debate, and do you feel like you're caught sort of right in the middle of it?
Well, this does start long before the current administration. I think the trouble with conservatism, really started, well, it can be traced. I came to Congress in 2001, and we had the majority in the House and the Senate, and also we had the White House. And at that time, I think we did a lot of things that we shouldn't have. We really kind of threw away the mantle of fiscal conservatism. We spent like drunken sailors and, earmarked spending, all the obscene things that we did, and we were thrown out of the majority in 2006 in both the House and the Senate, and then we lost the presidency in 2008.
And you said that you regret your vote in 2008 on during the financial crisis, the TARP bill, also known as the bank bailout bill?
Right. Yeah, I think there was a financial crisis that certainly we had to play the ball where it was. And it wasn't a good situation we're in. And I mentioned in the book, I kind of took the easy route out and relied on my colleagues to do the right thing, which I think was to ensure that our economy stayed. And so that is one vote I've mentioned that I regret.
So how do you feel about the criticism of somebody like Brent Bozell saying that you're dishonoring people like Bill Buckley?
Well, this book is very much an homage to Barry Goldwater. He, in 1960, felt that the party had been compromised by the New Deal, and he felt that he needed to write a blueprint about where the party needed to go. I think today the party's being compromised by populism, by protectionism, isolationism, and I think we need to do self-evaluation again, because populism is just not a governing philosophy. It's not the direction we need to head in the future.
So is that then a direct criticism of President Trump?
Well, I've said I've been critical of the president and the campaign on policy, in particular on trade. I think that we ought to embrace free trade. We are living in a globalized society, and we can either take advantage of it or we can be left behind.
So what would you feel about the president today stood with two of your colleagues, Senators Cotton and Perdue, on the RAISE Act, which is an immigration piece to curtail legal immigration, green card holders by 50%, and some other pieces in there. Where would you stand on that legislation like that?
I very much support a merit-based system. In fact, the bipartisan bill that we did a couple of years ago, we employed a merit-based system for legal immigration, but we didn't cut the numbers in half. I think that that's the last thing we need to do if we want a growing economy. I think almost every economist would tell you that. So I agree with the merit-based system. We need to bring more people in who can help with our economy. Certainly our competitors are doing that, but we can't cut the numbers in half. That wouldn't be the right direction to go.
So in Arizona, where you'll be up for re-election, I don't know, I think the approval ratings for you is somewhere like in the high 30s. Are you concerned about a primary challenge for your re-election effort?
In an off year, those fave, unfave are always, skewed. John McCain at this same time, I think, had a 30% approval rating, 54, disapprove. Mine is somewhere around there. In an off year, it's always that way. I'm going to run hard, have a good campaign, and I feel good about it.
I remember another member who was threatened with a primary challenger on their right saying, if they can get to the right of me, well, God bless them, because they didn't think that was possible.
What's, a
last word, I wanted
figure.
to actually ask you about criticism of you from the left as well. So the New York Times, for example, always wanting Republicans to stand up against President Trump.
Right.
They actually have somebody in you who wrote an op-ed in Politico that was pretty pointed, and yet they still don't. That's never good enough. What they basically want is complete submission from a Republican if they're going to push back against President Trump. Were you surprised by that, or typical?
I'm a conservative, and I mean, that's the bottom line, and I'm going to vote conservative. I voted with the president on a great Supreme Court justice and on regulatory reform issues. I think his instincts are good on tax policy, but I think on the side of policy, immigration, for example, and things like behavior and comportment and demeanor, I think that I have been critical of the president and the White House, and I think that Republicans should.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.